This episode is brought to you by Drake and his inspirational quote, "Could at least keep it a buck like Antetokounmpo."
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, my people.
Hello, my people! ¿Cómo están? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast, where I welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. This episode with Mark Brown, world champion of public speaking, was, no surprise here, a masterclass on speaking, tonality, storytelling, anything and everything public speaking related. Mark is also one of the nicest, most humble, talented, professional speakers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Today, actually, he is one of the most popular inspirational speakers in the world. His popularity spiked in 1995 when he defeated more than 20,000 contestants from 14 countries to win the illustrious Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking. Since then, he has delivered more than 3,500 presentations to more than 1.7 million people on 5 different continents. That is insane. That leaves me speechless. And I am very excited for you to listen to this episode. Now, brownie points, if you're listening to this episode on Spotify or watching us on video on YouTube, and you want to leave us a comment, review, like, and or subscribe, we would be eternally indebted to you. Also, even more brownie points, if you really like this episode, our favorite thing is when you share it on your Instagram stories and tag us, all right? Tag us at Stephan Dyer and at Mark Brown Speaks. Why did I do that with my voice? Because you'll hear Mark's voice. It is angelical, celestial, beautiful. All right, my friends, he is a keynote speaker. He is a speaking consultant. He is the 1995 world champion of public speaking. Please enjoy this episode with Mark Brown, like I know you will, in 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to the Stephan Dyer podcast. I have here the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable, the main man, the legend, the world champion of public speaking, Mark Brown. How are you, my friend?
Man, I am flat excited to spend some time with you today, my brother. You are teaching me so much about being funny because I know I'm really funny looking. So there you go.
Thank you, Mark. It means a lot that you're on the podcast. I know we've shared a couple of panels together for Toastmasters. That's one of the things that joins us. You were the 1995 world champion of public speaking. So I'm more than excited. You continue to be a speaker, a consultant, and mentor. You've mentored thousands, hundreds of thousands of people and performed in front of over 1.5 million people worldwide. So this is, it means a lot. I'm very excited. So thank you for being here.
It is my pleasure, Stephan. Happy to spend some time with you and your wonderful listening, maybe viewing audience as well. So
thank you. So, originally from Kingston, Jamaica, you immigrate to the U.S. at 18 years old with only $40 in your pocket and a dream for a better life. Why the U.S.? What were you looking forward to? And how did it go from having a dream, getting a job, and then doing public speaking for a living?
That's a very good question. Originally, the idea of migrating was not mine. That actually was my father's idea. And he was and is one of my heroes. My dad was 47 years old, a self-employed land surveyor in Kingston, Jamaica, married to a school teacher with 3 high teenage kids. My older brother, Woody, myself in the middle, and my sister, Jay. We could just call her JB. She was 17, maybe. My dad figured, you know what? Life is getting a little bit difficult for the disappearing middle class in Jamaica, but maybe the USA may have opportunity. His sister, my aunt, lived in the Bronx, New York, and she was willing to sponsor all of us to leave Jamaica to go to New York. The time came, I was out of high school. I left high school in June. I was on a plane in July, okay? And my father had so much to take care of. He had to get rid of things, sell things, and try to work out his finances. And at the time, he could only afford to give me $40 in cash and a plane ticket. I had 2 suitcases and a place to stay. Now, I know you're a family guy. I see you post your Liam pictures all over the place on Instagram. Yes. Family should mean more to us than it apparently means to so many people nowadays. Let me clarify. My aunt in the Bronx, New York, was a divorced mother of 2 young kids in a small 2-bedroom apartment. She had 1 bedroom with 2 twin beds, one for her daughter, one for her son, and she had her bedroom in the back. She gave me her daughter's twin bed, and her daughter went to stay with her in her bedroom on a mattress and a box spring, no headboard, no footboard, no glamour. So again, divorced school teacher, not making a lot of money. But because I was family, my Aunt Grace says, yes, send him to me. So I went to live in the Bronx with my $40 and my 2 suitcases. And the dream was, what happens next? Will I get my bite out of the Big Apple? And as blessings go, I began to apply for jobs the very next day. And I got a job working in a bank the very next day. Now, I wasn't the kind of smart money guy you were when you were in banking. I became a bank teller. I messed up on the job and I got demoted. I ended up working in the safe deposit vault for $136 a week with a bunch of overtired guys who were dirty old men, and I absolutely hated it. But eventually I took an aptitude test for a thing called computer programming. Back in 1981, it's what they call mainframe computers. I'm talking, 40 years ago, right? and mainframe computers, and I had an aptitude for that. And I got this job working for this bank in New York in computers. And at the same time, I left there's an old song by singer Harry Belafonte called Jamaica Farewell. And the chorus says, sad to say, I'm on my way, won't be back for many a day. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I got to leave a little girl in Kingston town. Well, Stephan, I did that. I left a little girl in Kingston town. Her name was Andrea. Actually, her name still is Andrea. And come April, we will celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
But I left her behind. And, in 82, we got married, and I had begun this new life in programming. And I went to work for a company called Reader's Digest at one point in time, way back in 92. Yeah, we have 3 kids now, but I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest condensed version. I went to Reader's Digest as a computer programmer. I was doing pretty well, but somebody introduced me, said, look, I was literally there one day, and a buddy of mine said, listen, we got a Toastmasters club here at Reader's Digest. Toastmasters. Now, I had heard about Toastmasters once before from an uncle of mine who was a Supreme Court judge in Jamaica who had come to New York for a visit, and he had a Toastmasters pin on his jacket. I said, Uncle, what's that? He says, Toastmasters. And he explained how it was public speaking and all that stuff. Oh, that's cool. And I forgot about it until my friend Milton said, we have a club here, Toastmasters. Check it out. That means on the 10th of December, 1992, I went to my first Toastmasters meeting at Reader's Digest Toastmasters in Pleasantville, New York. And I was completely intimidated by the speakers I saw, who were really quite talented. And don't forget now, I've been carrying this Jamaican accent for a while. So I know I sounded different. And I was a guest. Now, for anybody who's listening to this, who's a Toastmaster, I was a guest at the Reader's Digest Toastmasters for 4 months.
No.
Most guests will go to a meeting. Yeah, right? I wouldn't take the plunge. Here's the worst part, Stephan. Reader's Digest sponsored employee membership. It wasn't going to cost me anything, but I was Listen, people say, wait, Mark, you're the world champion. You talk all over the world to 1.7 million people. We all start somewhere. And
Definitely.
I started out intimidated. I knew I had a strong Jamaican accent. I was working on kind of modifying it, which I have over the last 40 years, obviously, for my audiences. Don't get me wrong. If I'm with Jamaicans and I talk to my Jamaican friends,
Same.
you're not going to understand a thing we talk about because you're Jamaican, which means you won't understand us because we're Jamaicans, right? So I mean, that didn't go away. But 4 months in, I finally say I'm gonna take the plunge and give my icebreaker, my opening speech. And I made the mistake of typing out the whole speech, and I forgot the double space on what's called a dot matrix printer. Those days when you print, it's all a bunch of dots. It was old school. But I had become adept at programming. I joined Toastmasters, and I had to endure a life-threatening illness. In 93, I had collapsed in a parking lot of a shopping market in Yonkers, New York, with severe chest pains. It turns out doctors found several blood clots in my lungs, and that about 60% blockage. And that was the good news. That was the good news. The bad news was they found one massive clot inside my heart. And at best, I was given a 50% chance of living. But they consulted a heart specialist who used a drug called TPA, which had not been approved for that particular use back in 93. But he did it, and it literally saved my life. And
Wow.
Side note, when someone saves your life, it's a good idea to thank them. Well, this is not a brag. This is a commitment I made. And that was June 23rd, 1993, that Dr. Anthony Mercando saved my life. And every year in late June, I either call him or visit him in New York. I live in Georgia now. But if I'm in New York, I go to his office. And he's still there. He's still there. Or we have a telephone call. And every year since 1993, June, I have thanked that man for saving my life. What that did for me, beyond keep my family together and bless me tremendously, was give me that chance to really jump into the Toastmasters program. And in 1994, I entered my first Toastmasters speech contest by accident as a late sub for somebody who could not attend because he had a business meeting at lunchtime. We met at lunchtime on Thursdays. And he said, okay, he can't come. I get requested. Hey, Mark, can you take Matt and Dennis's place? He can't come. I'm like, well, I'm working on the talk right now. It's not really rehearsed. I got some notes here. Okay, I'll do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I just entered a contest. I didn't know what the contest meant. I figured that's a different role. I do it. I ended up winning my contest and finding out had to do. No, Mark, you won. Great. Yeah, I know. There's more. What do you mean? You got to go to an area contest. An area, what's that? Well, area is higher than club. Okay, so when is that contest? Tonight. Now, I have literally 4 bullet points on the 3x5 card as my speech, as notes to myself. I've prepared a speech. I go through club and area and division and district. I end up going to Canada for the regional finals. I win that one, and I'm in the World Championship of Public Speaking, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
What was the title of your speech in that year?
Yeah, well, that year, Toastmasters required every competitor to win the world title, you had to have 3 different speeches. Yes. So you would use one speech for the club, the area, the division, and the district. The speech was called Say What? And it was never ever scripted. Literally, I walked up the first day with a 3x5 card with 4 bullets on it. I want to talk about the power of communication and how we can avoid miscommunication by using clarity in our words. I chose to open in French. I do not know why I did it, but I remember to this day what I said. Mesdames et messieurs, aujourd'hui, je voudrais parler au sujet de communication. Oh, excuse my French. And the audience laughed. Yes. And I just told some simple stories about, misunderstandings and wrong words. It was kind of goofy, but it made sense. I did that speech, club, area, division, won my district with it. They were all going, say what, say what, say what. But I had to change my speech to do the region. It's now called semifinals in the 21st century. And that one was called Take a Second Look. And the idea was, let's not judge people on first impressions only. In St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. And I won that contest. And a little funny story, because you're a humorist, you'll appreciate this. I was so green at the time, Stephan, that they had several dignitaries on stage to announce the winner of the contest because the winner was going to compete in the World Championship. And I knew a man named Bashiru Toure, who was an international director of Toastmasters, and some other guy was there with him. When they announced my name, went on stage, shook Bash's hand. I can't have ignored the other guy. I got my trophy, gave my speech. The guy I ignored, his name is Neil Wilkinson. He was only the president of Toastmasters International.
No
yes.
way.
And every time I go north to Canada, he's in Canada. And whenever I go to Canada and I see Neil, past president, he'll be at the registration desk doing credentials. He's a servant. And he will hug me and he'll laugh. He'll say, I remember what you did to me in 94, Mark. And I'm like, I didn't know who you were, man. I'm sorry. I was that green. So I end up in the World Championship without knowing what is really involved. And I gave a speech entitled The Power of the Tongue. And the opening line was death and life or the power of the tongue. It was about how words impact people. I didn't win, I didn't place, I didn't show. But for those who want to learn and want to grow, there's value in having people who help you along the way.
100%.
You have partners, you have mentors. I'm sitting there in the Galt House ballroom with my 7-year-old son, Joel, in my lap crying, Daddy, you tried so hard, you didn't win. It's not fair. True story. And this man walks up and says, I'm David Brooks. David Brooks, the 1990 world champion. I had heard his speech on an audio cassette tape. Now, for the millennials listening to us here, an audio cassette tape looks like a little, never mind, you'll just Google it. You'll find out what
Google it, yeah. You
just
can't describe it.
Okay.
It looks like a cassette. You can't describe it.
And David says to me, you have a talent. You know, if you want help, here's my card. And he was gone. That's a Saturday afternoon. And my son's crying. What do? Get him ice cream. We forget about it. We fly home Sunday. I drop my bags. I find Mr. Brooks's card, and I call up David Brooks, the 1990 world champion. Hello, David. It's Mark Brown. Do you remember me? He said, Mark, I met you yesterday. I know who you are. But I'm like awestruck because the world champion came to me. He tells me I'm talented. I said, you offered to help, will you? He said, sure. And that began a mentoring relationship, long distance, by phone and fax. Now, Stephan, to your millennial listeners, a fax machine resembles a small printer. You put paper in it, and it gives you never mind, you could Google it.
Google it.
Google it. But with his help, I entered the contest back in 1995. I went back to the whole process: club, area, division, district. And there's something for people who don't really know how Toastmasters works. You got to understand, there's almost 350,000 Toastmasters worldwide, 142 countries all over the world. And all they want to do is help people become better speakers, right?
Incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. And in the contest, they have contests and your winner moves on. In 95, I went to my club contest and I placed second. Second at my club. But what people don't know is there's a rule that says in an area with 4 or fewer clubs, they allow first and second to advance. I got a second chance to go through the contest run. I went club, area, division, district. That speech was entitled, My Living Shall Not Be in Vain. And that was about a song I heard many years ago, which says, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, humorous like you, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, mentor and help somebody, then my living shall not be in vain. The idea is, how can I help other people to make my life worthwhile? I won club, area, division, district. I got to a region. That one was a different presentation. That was called Press On. And the idea was, we all have hiccups in life. We all have bad things happen to us. And very often what holds us back is the memory. And the whole idea was, I want people to activate their forgettery, a word I use in my keynote now. The forgettery is the ability to forget the memories that weigh us down and hold us back. And I do a whole segment in my keynote about the forgettery. That one as well. I qualified one more time for the World Championship of Public Speaking.
That's incredible.
And I prepared a speech called Just Like You, where it's about influence, it's about integrity. And if we all show integrity, the people over whom we have influence will say, I want to be just like you. And it was awful. It was not a good speech. And David Brooks was mentoring me and trying to guide me. And I actually have, Stephan, in my desk drawer here, I have an envelope that contains copies of the correspondence between my mentor and me as I prepared for that speech contest. I mean, he's a good brother. And he let me realize he agreed I wasn't going in the right direction. But he said, look at something else you've done before. What can you modify, change, enhance, or improve that might give you a stronger message? Went back 1 year earlier to 94 when I went to my semifinal regional called Take a Second Look when I ignored Neil Wilkinson.
Yes.
And I reworked that speech. It became what's known as a second chance. It is a speech I used to win the world championship. It's a speech I chose to use and rewrite 16 days before the world championships. I don't recommend anyone do that, but I did that. The video is available on YouTube. You look for 1995 World Champion.
I have some questions about that. I love it. I watched it.
Right. So I reworked that speech completely and I created a second chance. Only David Brooks, my mentor, and my family ever saw it before I delivered it on stage that day. That's how fresh it was in my heart. And I was blessed enough to be given the green light and named the world champion. One other interesting side piece, Stephan. David Brooks approached me in Louisville, 94 and offered to help. Back then, we had 9 finalists, only 1 champion. 8 people did not win the coveted trophy. My understanding is, and David confirmed this, he approached everybody else who didn't win.
No
and said, listen,
way.
If he was offering his services free. I mean, free. He said, look, if you want help, I'm available. Get this. I was the only one who said yes to him.
No way.
Now watch. Of the 8 of us who were also reds, do you know how many of us actually made it back to the finals in 95?
Just you.
Just me. If you get a chance to get help from somebody who is where you want to be, why would you not say yes? Friends, Stephan's loyal, loving friends and fans, no matter what it may be in your life, business, speaking, music, art, whatever endeavor you want to pursue, if you have someone who comes to you, who is where you want to be, who offers their services gratis, free.
Yes.
What? Okay. Have you ever seen a really confused puppy dog when they go, huh? That's my thinking. Wait, what? How could you say no to that?
Incredible.
And with his help, I became the world champion, and Toastmasters revolutionized my life. At the time, I was a mainframe computer programmer at Reader's Digest in Pleasantville, New York. But I won this world title in 1995, and over a course of time, my career changed from computer programming to speaking full-time. But you said you have some questions about my contest speech. I don't want to delay those questions or pass by them. So please ask away, man.
I am excited. So in 1995, you win the World Championship of Public Speaking. You defeat over 20,000 contestants from 14 countries. And the year before you had been to the final, as you already said, I'm very curious. What areas of improvement did you identify from 94 to 95? And how did you go about improving them? What was included in this correspondence with Darren Brooks? Or what's his name?
Brooks. David Brooks. 1990 World Champion of Public Speaking.
What was in this correspondence? Because when you're a beginner, for example, if we could graph this, 0 is a beginner and 100 is the best in the world.
Well,
when you get coached by one of the best, you go very, very quickly from 0 to 45, for example. But you have already, you can 0 to 20, maybe 0 to 35. But when you already reached the world finals, you're probably at 80 or 90. And to go from 90 to 91, you really need to narrow down on what you need to exactly improve. So what areas of improvement did you identify and what was going on in this correspondence? How did you go about improving these?
Okay. First of all, for me, it was asking questions. As you're talking, I'm trying to find the right copy of my notes to David Brooks, but I found myself, I put a script together and I said, David, what are your thoughts about this? And I would send him a script with 18 questions. What about this? I don't know about this. I'm unsure. The first thing that changed was David would challenge me to answer my own questions. So the first thing was I began to think differently. I began to think about what impact will my speech have on the audience. I began to think about, am I being too self-centered? Me. I began to think about the way I structured it. I began to tie off loose ends. Did I make a reference I didn't resolve? That process of being more analytical came from working with David during, certainly at the end of my district run, through my region, and definitely into the finals. And I remember in June of 95, I was rehearsing a speech, and I have here one of my notes to him. I have 12 comments I received and 2 of my observations. I began to ask him 18, 20 questions. What about this? Should I do that? Good about this? Should I do that? Through the process of learning, of thinking differently, of seeing my audience, of making my words make more meaning, of adding rhythm and rhyme, of adding all the tools he was giving to me. By the time I got to the end of my run, I have here August 2nd. I'm 16 days out, and I sent him a long fax the day before, and I have a list here of 19 comments about one of the talks I gave. 19 comments and questions. By the last run, I was no longer asking David questions. I was making statements. It wasn't, should I do this? Should I leave that out? Is it more of this? It became, I took that sentence out, replaced it here because of this. Some people don't like this, but I believe it's best for my speech. That sentence remains. So I went from a person who was asking questions of his mentor, who was making decisions and justifying my decisions.
I love it.
My entire thought process was different. So if a good mentor may spoon feed you for a while, but a great mentor will give you room to make mistakes, figure them out, and make the adjustments on your own. You don't want someone to hold your hand your whole life. And perhaps the most emotional correspondence that David Brooks and I ever had was when he told me that something I said to him in an email, fax, not email, it was faxes. Listen, these are prints of letters I wrote, I faxed to him, okay? And I wrote to him and I said, because at one point when I had the wrong speech, it wasn't working. He was watching me kind of flounder around. He didn't say, stop, do this. He kind of, what about this? Would you consider doing an older speech? Maybe adjusting what you have, making me think. And I said to him in my correspondence, something like this. Like a wise father, you let me go along the path you knew was not right, trusting that I would find my way home.
Oh, so good.
Wow. And David reiterated that to me in a voicemail a few years later, because he had a son and he was trying to be a good dad to his son, and he was struggling with what it means to be a good father. He only has one child. Now Matthew's now married and doing very, very well. Oh gosh, 25 years ago. But the thing is, like a wise father, he trusted I'd find my way back. Friends, Stephan's loving fans, when it comes to mentorship, a mentor will hold your hand for a season, but they have to let you get your wings and fly, and they'll guide you along that path and trust you. And when David Brooks told me, Mark, I want you to surpass me. Wow. I understood the heart of a mentor who wants the best for anyone who's their protege, who looks to them for support and guidance and wisdom. They want you to fly. They want you to do your best. They want you to be your best and surpass them if need be. And sometimes you'll find the student will outstrip the teacher.
Yeah.
And I share that's part of my story because you never know, again, who may be a mentor for you in your business, in your avocation. It could be music, art, comedy. It could be working for a bank. It could be business. It could be entrepreneurship. Whatever it is, we all should have mentors who guide and coach us. But as a mentor, you can't hold their hand the whole time. You got to let them fly, let them run, let them be all that they are destined to be. And that was a meaningful part of my journey, man. A really meaningful part of my journey.
Thank you for sharing that. I watched that speech on your YouTube channel. We're going to include it in the show show notes.
Cool. Appreciate that. It
seems to me that you're very good at bumping a speech that if you just read it, it would be a good written speech. Maybe like if you just read the sentences, the lines, you gave it to anyone, they'd be like, yeah, this is like a 6 out of 10 presentation. If they were to imagine it,
right,
and they would just read it. Like any song, really. If they would just read the song, they're like, yeah, this could be good. But you are a master of doing everything it takes to make it an incredible speech. So it's not what you say, it's how you say. When we look at communication, and I know I'm rounding the numbers here, but the bulk, 65, 70% of communication is body language. Approximately 20, 25% is tonality. And then only 10% is the words that are coming out of your mouth. So in other words, a lot of people, when they're going to do speeches, they just focus on what they're writing, but they don't practice it as much. And when you don't practice it, then you can't add tonality, vocal variety, body language, and you can't add color to the text. When I see your speech, you sing the Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, right.
You make people laugh. You have incredible pauses. You act. You imitate. It's like a performance. It's not a speech. It's like it's a big performance. Everything matters. If you were to recommend to someone beginning their public speaking journey, what time allocation would you recommend if they had 100 minutes to prepare, spend 10 minutes writing it and 90 minutes practicing, or 40 minutes just saying it out loud, doing the mirror, trying to add vocal variety, singing, pauses? What breakdown? I know it's a hard question, but if you could allocate 100 minutes, now, what would you recommend?
Truth be told, I've never done a mathematical allocation, but in terms of priority, certainly you want to have value in the words you're going to say. So your content has to be solid.
Yes.
But I coach speakers all over the world. I coach professionally right now. And one of my mantras is don't give a speech, deliver an experience.
Yes.
And the experience the audience gets, as you say, they see words on a page, that's nice. But the pacing, the pausing, the nonverbals, when your face says something that words don't.
Yes.
Look at your face. When you take a line, I could say, we don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us. I can say that. But when I go, we don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us. And this monster is mysterious at least. I've become Gaston, the character in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
I use the word roar in my speech. Have they heard your beast roar? That's the onomatopoeia, where the word and the sound are in sync. You got to think about those things. You got to devote time to asking yourself, how can I best deliver this material in a way that it makes a connection? If you spend 90% of your time writing the words and 10% on delivery, anybody can deliver those words.
Oh,
but if you put the 60% in the delivery, what happens is it becomes your delivery with your personality, with your pauses, your face. And I've seen individuals who have read the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech. You know, they've read Abe Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. You know, they've read words from Mother Teresa or Winston Churchill, as the case may be. And that's nice as a rendition. In school in Jamaica, we had to do poetry and elocution, and they'd give you an excerpt, and you must read that excerpt from this. And there were guys who did it really well. Yes. But nobody can come on the platform or on a comedy stage and deliver Stephan Dyer's material the way Stephan can do it, because you're bringing your personality, and it takes time to infuse your personality in the words on a page. So much so, and I have to be careful how I say this, but I have coaching clients who have wonderful scripts that they have, and we go through a coaching session and they're delivering it, and I'm saying, stop. You're not inserting your personality into it. When you insert your personality, I see you delivering the lines. I can connect with you as an individual, person to person, and I feel the experience more. So I say all that, Stephan, to say if you're going to prepare a speech, a presentation, yes, you want to have solid content. But if the majority of your time is on the content and slides, and a minority is on the preparation, the rehearsal, the timing, the pausing, the expression, the delivery, you're missing the boat. The delivery is important. Here's what's funny. I say funny as in funny, haha. In the Toastmasters World Championship, when we're live, we go to the ballroom at 7 a.m. It's a 9 o'clock contest. You arrive at 7. They tell you to wear what you're going to wear. We're going to mic you up. We're going to do a full audio check on the day, 2 hours early in sequence. So, one guy comes in his suit and tie and wearing shorts. Cool. That's fine. I wear my suit, my tie, and I get mic'd up, and they say, give us the range of what you will say in your speech so we can get your levels, high, low. Let us know where to come. I mean, the whole production piece, fine. I don't want anyone to know anything I'm doing in my speech. Somebody will do, 15 seconds of the talk. They'll do the high part, the loud part. What did you say? And they're showing the speech. Me? No, boss. Me not make nobody see my speech early. So what I did, Stephan, no lie, I went on stage and they said, Mark, go first. Give us your low, your high. I said, fine. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W? No, Toyota. X, Y, Z.
I love it.
That's my soundtrack. But I do drama for the alphabet, dude. Now you bring yourself to your presentation and you insert who you are, your emotion, what you mean to those words. It's a different thing for every person. You need to invest the time on your delivery, on your phrasing. For you in comedy, timing is a huge thing. A half-second pause too long or too short, your line falls.
Yes.
And I can't begin to imagine. That's the one thing I'll confess to the world right now. I've not done stand-up. I haven't even done sit-down comedy, okay? It's the one part of presenting that terrifies me because I don't want to bomb. I was never a funny person. Funny looking. I was shocked they asked me to be the humor panel with you guys. I'm like, I get with Stephan and Drew and Veronica. What? They want me on humor? That's crazy. But as you know, timing, pacing.
You got it down, though.
But it's 27 years of Toastmasters, man. Every speech is a practice. Sometimes,
definitely.
Sometimes our conversations are a rehearsal, right? But I want to answer your question the best way I know. You don't want to do your majority of time on content. Yes, you need content. But if you have 30% time on content and you do 60% on delivery and spending time to assess yourself and working on all of that, that may be a good portion for you. Some people say, no, I need more time on content. Well, fine. Rehearse it 50 times, 100 times. 100 times before you want to give it to the audience, if you feel that uncertain. And after a while, the habit of rehearsing when you're in the shower, when you're in the car driving down the street, of recording yourself and playing it in your earphones while you're moving on your riding lawnmower or on the treadmill becomes a way where everything in a sense becomes some kind of rehearsal. I confess, I'm in the shower, I'm rehearsing. I'm ironing my clothes. Yes, I iron my own clothes in the hotel for an event. I'm ironing. I love to iron, by the way. It's calming for me. But I'm ironing in the hotel. I'm going through my speech. I'm walking to the store. I'm going through my presentation. I'm seeing my audience. I'm recalling my points in sequence. I physically visualize my points. I'm working on a keynote right now for a company to be recorded tomorrow. And this morning I'm in my bed. I said my prayers. And in my bed, I'm going, okay, point 1, point 2, point 3, that story. You find that when you involve your existence into giving your audience what you have worked so hard to prepare. And for me, and I teach all my clients this, when your mindset is one of, I can't wait to give the audience the gift I've worked so hard to prepare for them. That mindset says, I got something for you, man. I can't wait to give it. I can't help but give my best. Because my biggest fear as a presenter, Stephan, is this: not giving my audience the value they deserve.
I
Long
love that.
answer for a short question, but I hope your audience appreciates the depths I had to go into to make that clear. So thank you.
No, I definitely love it, because there's a quote that I love, and it goes, escape competition through authenticity. And you can't deliver your best delivery unless it's your own delivery. But in order to get to that delivery, you need to go through the motions.
Yeah.
You need to discover what's your best delivery, what's your most comfortable delivery, what's your best style, what the audience really values of what you have to say.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, especially when you're starting in comedy, even now, what you think is funny may not be funny to them. And what you don't think is funny could be really funny to them. And the process of discovering that,
right,
of saying your authentic truth and being who you are on stage, it's frightening at the beginning. And it's a tough, beautiful, fulfilling process to get there. So I do subscribe to the 10-90. If we had to break it down, you obviously need to have a good text. We're not saying don't write the text or don't spend time on that, because you could have an incredible delivery, but if what you're saying doesn't make sense, it's not going to go anywhere. So thank you for saying that. My next question is, I always find that there's two types of speakers that win public speaking competitions, at least in the area contest or in other places that is not Toastmasters. And I don't like to really label, but the first one is the very technical, amazing speaker and performer. And then the second one is the person who may not be as great a speaker as the first kind, but they just have an unbeatable, extraordinary life story. Like the guy survived 18 car crashes and now runs ultra marathons. And like, you can't beat that, obviously not taking any credit from the people who have lived these crazy stories. And I mean, they're an example of how to live life and an example of human beings, I do find that the latter, the one with the crazy story and okay speaker, will often win, at least in the area or like the initial stages and the low level stages, because of the wow factor.
Yeah, I can see that.
I do find that when you get a speaker that combines the two, they're unbeatable. I think you come into this category because while you haven't endured 18 car crashes and now run ultra marathons, you do tell the story like it's something extraordinary. So it is an incredible story. And then you have obviously an outstanding, incredible speaker and performer like yourself. What skill set do you think is required to win the World Championship of Public Speaking?
And that is the $1 million question, because within Toastmasters, there is a Facebook group dedicated to the speech contest. And they asked the question about, what is the formula? And in some ways, Toastmaster speeches have become somewhat formulaic. I will concede to that, Stephan. But what they look for, Toastmasters has a ballot, a judge's guide and ballot. And the judge's guide and ballot asks every contestant to have some degree of context to what they have. They want to know that you have a message. There's value to it. Was the audience engaged? Do you use language well? Do you have humor? Is the audience entertained as well? And the ballot asks you to give all these different components to make sure everything is you give a good complete speech.
Definitely. So it's more objective, yeah.
But on paper. But in my experience, I realized that judging has become very subjective, because there have been times I thought, wow, that speech was great, and they placed third. Or that guy was okay. It's the winner. That happens quite frequently. But I would tell anyone who wants to compete, you need to have a good message. Now, there was one discussion made this week about, must there be a call to action? Must the audience be told, you have to now go and do this? Not necessarily, but it has to be entertaining, stimulating. The audience has to have a good experience. That's why I say don't give a speech, deliver an experience. And for me, words, characters, music helped me deliver the experience. But you have to have something of value for the audience to walk away with. And what we've found in Toastmasters is, over the last several years, there were no truly sensational stories, but they were well-told stories to which the audience in general could relate. Okay? I talked about a Disney cartoon. Erin Beverly talked about going to a wedding in India. Ramona Smith, the most recent female winner in 2018, talked about failing in her marriage, failing in school, and failing in a Toastmasters contest, but she's still standing. She fought back. You know, we hear these simple stories that Muhammad Khatani, The Power of Words, very simple stories. Last year, Mike Carr won the first virtual contest with a speech called Librarian and Mrs. Montgomery about success comes not always in achieving, but at least attempting. If you don't try, you will never succeed. So your first step is to make the attempt. Success starts with the try, he says. What a concept, simple idea. And it was conversational. It wasn't about climbing Mount Everest uphill, backwards, bare feet, both ways in the snow in July. It was nothing like that. It was about a kid in school who tried to fix a project and he messed up. And how we all find ourselves trying to do things, but if we don't even try, we'll never get there.
I love it.
And you have to bring yourself to it. As you said earlier, you had to bring your own personality to it. So the formula would be have a good message. Make it entertaining to keep us engaged and give us a little something to think about. If we walk away saying, you know what, I remember the speech you gave back in 2017, Stephan, at that comedy club in Montreal, or whatever the case may be.
I do find I love that. I want to get your opinion. This is not a scripted question. I didn't prepare this question, but
that's okay.
I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Always feels to me, from having performed in 9 countries, that the people remember what you least expect them to in some ways. I mean, the message, obviously they'll remember. Like Maya Angelou says, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Right.
So
right.
I watched your speech of the World Championship of 1995 that you won. And what I really, really recall is you singing the Beauty and the Beast. You know, right. and like you said, people after your 1994, one of your speeches, they were saying, say what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they keep these little things.
Yeah,
it's like that running gag or that callback is like the cherry on top, the secret ingredient. So that tomorrow or a week from now, when they open the fridge, they're like, oh my God, that that Mark Brown guy? Say what?
It's crazy, man. That's true. That's really crazy. It's true, though.
It's almost like when you're developing your speech, obviously it's not required, but you do need to. It'd be great if you could sprinkle it with a little bit of a song, or a say what, or a running gag, or a callback, so that people do remember you. What's your take on this?
Well, I agree, and I work with Darren LaCroix, as you know, at State Time University, and we always tell people it's nice to have a foundational phrase, something that they're going to remember you by, like say what. And I gave a talk one time. It was called The Dash Between the Dates. It's about how we live our lives. I delivered that talk in 2001, in 2003 in Bahrain. And I have been getting people telling me, I remember when you came to Bahrain in 2003. I'm like, that's like 18 years ago. Oh yeah, you did the dates and the running track and everything. And they remembered something I did because it was something memorable. It may be a phrase you have. It could be a phrase that stays. One phrase you use, and whatever it may be. If you use that phrase, you insert your personality and make it memorable. Yeah. That's what the audience is going to remember. And there's certain people who are known for certain phrases. In the thinking world, you say the Fred factor, people go, that's Mark Sanborn. That's his line. So what's your line? What's your bit of memorabilia? What is your foundational phrase? What is your catchphrase? How will people remember you? If you can insert that and sprinkle it in about 3 spots in the presentation, it becomes an anchor in people's minds. Like I said, say what? And it was say what? Say what? And that was in New York in 1994. I went back to a New York program about 6 or 7 years ago. And one of the ladies who was there, Charnette, said, say what? From 1994 to 2016.
Yes.
I'm talking 22 years. And she's going, say what? You said that.
Even better if you can accompany that word with a gesture.
Right. It becomes visual now. Yeah.
It becomes visual. So then the third time around with this running gag, you'll do the gesture and they'll say it without you having to even say it.
Yeah.
Now you have an inside joke with the audience and you have a deeper connection. So
that's brilliant.
I love it.
That's good. That's really, really good. I hope y'all listening, friends. Here's some wisdom. He's dropping some wisdom today. I tell you what. Yeah.
Talking about Bahrain and other countries.
Yeah.
Knowing your audience is critical. I always like to tell my students that if you could research your audience beforehand, you've won half the battle, because the material may not change, but the way you deliver it may change. So I tell my students, talk to the producer or the organizer and ask who's going to be there. If they don't know, arrive early. Always arrive early. Or obviously research. If you have the online people who've bought the tickets, or if you know who's going to be there, obviously research. If the producer doesn't know you can't do that, then arrive early and talk to the people. What? Who invited you? What are you here for? What interests you from this event? What are you looking to get out of this event?
Right.
And then if you can't do that because you're in the green room or you're late, then do it live.
But a feeling.
By show of hands, who here is in marketing? Or by show of hands, who here is in university? By show of hands, who loves Barcelona? Who's sad that Messi left for PSG?
PSG. Paris Saint-Germain. You're going, you got Messi.
And they got him for free.
Yeah,
so
right.
You've done keynote speeches all over the world, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Doha, China, South Korea, Germany, Lithuania, India, and counting.
Yes.
Recognizing the cultural differences from country to country, what types of things do you prepare for? What type of things do you look out for when you're preparing for these presentations to ensure that, one, you don't get lost in translation, you're not misunderstood, and two, that you don't come across as disrespectful / aggressive?
Excellent. I remember when I first went to China and Bahrain the same year in 2001. Oh, wow, 2001, 20 years ago. I asked questions about culture, about protocols, what I can say, what I can't say, what are topics to be avoided. Would there be any misunderstanding for certain gestures and body movement? You know, because sometimes you go to a country, you don't touch somebody with your left hand. It's your right hand, because the left hand is to take care of business when you clean your body, right? So you don't use left hand, it's right hand. Sometimes you wouldn't extend your hand to a woman in that culture. So,
or look them in the eye.
Yeah, exactly. All of those things you have to be careful for. So I ask, I research, and my contact person there, we have that rapport going back and forth. Culturally, what are norms? What are taboo? What is safe to say? What must I avoid? And the funny thing is, when I went to Bahrain the first time, there were 7 nations combined at this conference. They had like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, my brain is going south for a second, but in the Middle Eastern countries, the UAE, right, and so on, they had these different countries, and Kuwait. And I said, I knew we had atheists, Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, different religions that were all in one place. And I said, I said to the audience, I was told there are 3 things you don't talk about from the platform: politics, sex, and religion. I'll therefore address all 3 at once. The place went crazy. I mean, they laughed at it, but I said, the reason why we don't do that is because we know these are divisive topics. And your theme here is together towards tomorrow. That was a theme, together towards tomorrow. So our goal is for us to be together, not just physically in the room, but in mindset, in goal, to make this district the best district in the world. But I had to understand what my boundaries were, what I could say. When I go to schools in Saudi Arabia or in India, a co-ed school, the boys are on one side and the girls are on the other side. There's a hallway in the middle. Now, in the North America, here you go to school, you're going to hang out together, boys and girls. But I had to understand culturally why that was so. I had to respect that when I was giving talks to schools in Saudi Arabia, in India, and other parts of the world. Even colleges in India, I went to a college, an engineering college, and they had the ladies over here and they had the men over here. They have certain standards you live by. So I couldn't, the way I would talk to a youth audience in America, and I spent 15 years doing junior and senior high school programs, I had to adjust because of how they treat each other culturally. Whenever you have an opportunity to address a multinational or international audience in a foreign country, virtually or in person, you got to do your homework. You got to do your research. You got to find out the demographic, what their values are, what you can say, what you can't say. And for anyone who's considering presenting and going out professionally, I recommend you have what we call a pre-event questionnaire, where you ask certain questions, you email that to them, have them email it back to you, and then have a pre-event conference call, which used to be by phone. Nowadays, it's by Teams or Zoom, depending on what platform the client uses. But you have that face-to-face conversation and find out what the pluses are, what are the minuses, what can you say, what can you not say. Find out what they want you to say that they won't say, because, the boss always says that. But you, Stephan Dyer, come in as a guest and you say it. Oh, that's really smart. We've told it for the last 2 years. But the guests, right? But you're right, Stephan, the research and finding out what's different. I had to be very, very careful in Saudi Arabia, in South Korea, in China. I want to be careful and mindful of their cultural values, of things that I can say. The humor, and but you're a humorist, man.
Yeah, it takes a
lot of humor.
You have to be very careful.
Yeah, a lot of humor worked in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain. Humor worked, but I have to really, if I think it's close to the line, I won't say it.
Definitely.
For example, in North America, this line works well for me very quickly, Stephan. My wife, Andrea, and I have several daughters who kind of adopt us. They call her Mama Annie and Papa Mark. And we have, 2 in India, 1 in China, 1 in Lithuania, and they call us Mama Annie. It happens all over the world. And I'm talking to the audience and I'm saying, this is a picture of my daughter, Leah. This is a white girl from Macon, Georgia. I said, can you see the family resemblance? They laugh, ha, 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 ha. But you understand, I have kids all over the place, No, I didn't come out right. I meant my wife and I have been adopted virtually by kids. But when I say I have kids all over the place, in some cultures, I'm saying I'm promiscuous, I'm irresponsible, I'm a dad who just goes and does a business all over the world. And in some countries, that's not funny at all. Definitely. So I got to pull that line out of the speech and not deliver it and just say, here is Leah. She adopted my wife and me years ago. She calls us Mama and Papa. And there's several young ladies who treat us in that way. But I can't.
Because one thing could make or break the speech.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. So do I drop this line or not? Because you go to a different country, you got to make sure you want to make them laugh. And sometimes your best lines are not appropriate for an international or multinational audience.
Yes, I have a show, a corporate show for Johnson & Johnson later today. And they were very specific, very no sex, politics, or religion.
Of course, yeah.
Do not pick on people. In fact, do not talk to people. It's a very family-friendly comedy show. But I like that you're saying that, because you may be shooting yourself in the foot by not doing that research, or by saying some of my colleagues that I've traveled with or toured with, sometimes, or when I go into countries and I do festivals with other comedians, they're like, no, this is my material. And if they don't like it, well, they shouldn't even hire me, blah, blah, blah. But it's not like that. You need to be a little flexible. I'm not saying you should be disingenuous or lose your authenticity. I'm saying that when you do risk and reward, one word could immediately turn off the audience. Right. I noticed I got to the finals of the 2019 Toronto Comedy Brawl, which is 400 comedians. Yeah. And you're like, it's 6 nights of just elimination. Right. I got to the finals. It was 9 of us. And I look back, I don't think this had an effect in me not winning it. It was 9 of us. I was first in the draw. And it's, I'm
Set
not
the
saying,
pace. Set the pace.
yeah, it's good, but a lot of people hadn't even showed up. I wish it could have been ninth or fresh when the votes came in, because the audience had to vote. But I said there was a lot of white people in the audience.
Okay.
And I have an opening line that I say, "Hi, my name is Stephan Dyer, and I'm Costa Rican, or as white people call us, Mexican."
Yeah,
and,
right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I realized that sometimes if I see a lot of white people in the audience, I tweak it a little bit, and I say, or as most people call us, Mexican.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have said white, because off the bat, I'm picking on them. Yeah. It's not okay. It's not like horrible, because they're not the minority, and I always teach my students to punch up, not punch down towards the minorities.
Right. Exactly.
And it's true in many ways, but I wouldn't have lost as much if I said, or as most people call us, Mexican. Right. People would have laughed the same, but I may have rubbed some people the wrong way and sacrificed a couple of votes, which I could have used to place first or second or third, Yeah. So I really like that.
You know, it's funny though, with that line, I lived in New York for 27 years, I guess it was 26 years. And that line in New York, if you change Mexican to Puerto Rican, man, it'll kill. It'll kill, because
in fact, Costa Ricans, you say, "Oh, where are you from, Costa Rica?" And they're like, "Oh, I love Puerto Rico." And
exactly. Like, no. Like Costa Rica.
So it would work perfectly in New York.
In New York, I would kill. I'm telling you, I lived there 26 years. That's like a major thing, man. Anybody who sounded like they were from a different part, such as Central America, the assumption was Puerto Rican. Was it fair?
Yes.
No, but it happens,
Or sometimes, they think Costa Rica's in like Cancun or something. And like, where are you from, Costa Rica? Oh, I love Cancun. And I'm like, what? It's not the same.
And anyone who sounds Caribbean is Jamaican. Yeah, man, Usain Bolt. It's one of those things. It's like, but I laugh at that. It's okay. I don't get rubbed the wrong way. And I've had to I found myself being the only Caribbean person in the room. I found myself being the only person of color in the room. I've done talks now in South Dakota at schools, and I go to a school and it's these little kids in middle school, they're 11 years old, and I walk in, the kids are like, and I give my talk. I had one group, it was like 4, 5, and 6th grade. I don't normally do 4th grade, but I said yes for this particular assignment. And I did the program, and they were done. They wanted to meet me. And the little 4th grade kid looked at me like, "Can I touch your head?" He wanted to feel the buzz of my hair.
No.
Now I knew it was a 4th grader. Okay, this kid is like 9 years old. Excuse me. And they're innocently, honestly wanted to feel what it's like to feel the buzz cut on this black guy's head. His teacher turned white. She was like, "Oh my gosh, this kid offended our guest speaker. What's going to happen?" And I could see her panic. And I said, "He's curious. It's okay." I said, "Come here, man." And he did this. He says, "Cool." I said, "No, don't do this. You got to go backwards." And he went, "That's cool, man." But it's a 9-year-old kid. This is 20 years ago, but he was innocent. But sometimes you got to be very careful, because ethnically and these days, offense is so quick to flare up, you know. But if you're going to present to an audience that's in any way diverse from you, you have to do your research, find out about your clientele, and do your best to serve them, not to offend them.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Before we move into the rapid fire questions, which is a very short section, and then we just have the final question of the podcast.
Sure.
I want to ask you how you prepare, and not just for the speech, like in terms of practicing, but mentally and emotionally. It seems to me, I always tell my students that if you practice a lot, for example, I recommend that my students, if it's a 5-minute speech, that they practice it at least 20 times in the 2 days before, and even more times before that. Because if you practice it 25 times, the real day, the body can't really distinguish between the 19th time and the 26th time.
Right.
By that time, if you know your material so well, the words are going to come out by themselves pretty much. And nervousness won't disappear, obviously, because I still get nervous. I think maybe you probably still get nervous. And that being said, it's not going to have as big an impact than if you didn't practice. Because if you don't practice, your eyes are going to go, what's next?
You're thinking.
I'm talking and I'm swallowing. And I'm like, and as I was saying, so I recommend to practice a lot. But on the mental side and emotional side, I tell them the 2 minutes or the 5 minutes right before the speech and the first 10 seconds of the speech, that's the worst part. So speak a little bit slower if you can. Just don't fumble your first sentence. And then it's not smooth sailing, but it's so much better. You're going to ride that wave.
Yeah.
And when you practice, dress up the same way you're going to dress up on stage. Come in from the left side if you know you're going to come in from the left side. In your kitchen, as you're practicing, or in your room, come in from the left side. I introduce myself. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephan Dyer. I shake a fake hand. I get the mic. I move the mic stand. And I'm pretending like this is the real deal. If I mess up on the first paragraph, I don't start all over again. I finish the entire speech because I want to make my body believe that this is the real day. So when the real day comes, I've been through the real day already 20, 30 times. What's your process? I also like to meditate a little longer before a speech. And when I meditate and I know that I've practiced like it's the real day and my breathing is under control, and I know that the only thing that I have to do is not fumble the first sentence, I'm golden. What is your process to make sure that you're going to be good the day of?
Good question. I'll start with what I call internalizing, which we already discussed. You know it so well, the words flow. I view internalizing as Stephan comes in my bedroom at 2:17 a.m., shakes me and says, Mark, give your speech. Now, why is Stephan in my bedroom at 2:17 in the morning? It's a different question altogether. But if you shake me awake at 2:17 and say, go, I should be able to do it without thinking. That's internalizing and knowing it so well, which comes from the rehearsal and saying, again, I've got this ready for them. So on the day, I pray to start every day, but certainly presentation day, I am praying, God, I have worked so hard to deliver this to the people. Help me to be my best for them and give you the value that they deserve. In terms of my physical being, if it's a morning presentation, which happens often, I'm not going to be doing scrambled eggs, sausage, bacon, and orange juice in a glass of coffee.
So true.
I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to hydrate early enough. But if my body is thinking digest them eggs or the egg white omelet, my body can't give me everything I need to give my audience 100%. So I take care of my body. That may mean getting up and doing, a mile or two on a treadmill, depending on where I am. Okay. But prepare my body and my mind. I can remember in 1995, Region 7 conference, which is now Toastmasters semifinals, was at a resort in Maryland, USA. I had a swimming pool there. And the event would begin at like 6 p.m. It was 5 o'clock. I was in the pool alone doing a few laps with an easy breaststroke. I went to my hotel room shortly thereafter, took my shower, got dressed, relaxed, calm, and went to the ballrooms. And after the contest, a contestant said he saw me from his hotel room in the pool by myself, calmly doing the easy breaststroke, 8 or 10 laps around the pool. And he said, that's Mark Brown. Either he doesn't know what time it is, or he's one really cool customer. But it was part of my routine to bring myself to a place where I was serene. I was the only person in the pool, but I was serene. I got to swim in, took my shower, gently, slowly got dressed, said a prayer in my hotel room before I left the hotel room. And I looked at myself in the mirror I looked good enough to fool them. I went to the ballroom and I was mentally in a place ready to deliver.
Mental clarity.
You got to get mental clarity and make sure your body's hydrated. Don't eat and please, no ice cream, no milk. Don't clog your throat. Just get some room temperature water, have it handy, hydrate yourself, make sure you are nourished but not full, because the body wants to digest. It detracts from what the brain is doing to give your audience the best they have. But I remember my last point on this, on the Toastmasters final, 95, you go backstage when the guy before you were speaking, or the person before you were speaking, you go backstage, you get mic'd up. And I was backstage to get mic'd up. I said, give me a second. I did 12 push-ups first backstage.
Yeah.
So I got energy going. I was mic'd up. I was ready. And I was backstage. I had my hand on the railing. And I was like a caged bull at a rodeo. I was like, okay, let me at him. Let me at
that's
him.
me.
I can't wait to give it to him. So I'm rocking. When they said, Mark Brown, I got up there and I calmly walked on. I didn't want to look too thrilled, but I calmly walked out and nod to the audience. You look at the video. I nod to the audience. I walk out. I shake his hand. And then I begin. But I was ready in so many ways, mentally, physically, spiritually. And if you can center yourself in those 3 ways before you speak, and your heart is in the right place, it's going to be really hard to bomb under those circumstances.
I love it. Like Bernie Mac, I ain't scared of you. I do that too. Like I'm never sitting down unless I have to right before, because there's a bunch of people next to me. But I will tell all my students, you have to make sure that the transition from before onto the stage is smoother than if you just get up and start doing it, because your heart rate is going to go up. It is a workout to be up there.
Oh yeah.
So I'm always going doing push-ups, doing jumping jacks, doing something. And after a couple minutes, I'm not scared of these guys.
Yeah.
Let's get I want them. And I'm like Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it out loud because I don't want to interrupt the speaker before me, but it is very important. I was going to ask you about that, so I'm happy that you mentioned it. I just came up with another question. How important is to tell people where your speech is going in the intro? I always find that the speech is a lot more effective when people know where it's going. So for example, when you ask someone in an interview, why do you think you're the best candidate for this position? And they're like, in 1961, you're like, oh my God, when is this going to end? As opposed to saying, I think I'm the best candidate for this position for 3 reasons. First, because I speak Spanish. Second, because I do comedy. And third, because I play soccer or whatever. This is just a quick example.
Right.
When you do a speech in the intro, if you tell them where it's going, if you give them the mental map of what's going to happen, do you think the speech is more effective in a business scenario or in any scenario? Or do you not do it if it's a storytelling speech and you don't want to give away other things?
If a storytelling is the key, the story should take us on a journey with the destination. Now, in a Toastmasters contest, I advise individuals who are competing not to give the speech away too early, because what has happened over time is, if I say my speech is the power of self-belief, there are those who will say, I've heard this before. I've read this guy's book. I know what Stephan Dyer says. What's he going to tell me? And they get ahead of you. But if you can make it a bit more mysterious and cause them to lean in, then that's certainly a different picture. Now, in the business world, corporately, they bring you in for a purpose. The audience knows why you were there. We're going to bring in Stephan Dyer. He's going to tell us the power and the value of humor in the workplace, especially during a pandemic season, why we need to insert humor in our lives. They know why you were there. There is no mystery there. So generally in a business environment, they have you there for a purpose. So what I do is, especially in my professional introduction by the introducer, by the meeting planner, whoever's going to introduce me. I let the introduction serve as a setup for me so they know why I'm going to be there. But it's a teaser. So by the time I want the audience to love me and lean in before they even meet me. And if you craft your introduction carefully, that can make a significant difference.
100%.
And I did a podcast with Darren LaCroix on the Unforgettable Presentations podcast about how to write an introduction to get the audience to know you and before you even say a word. So I did a blog post called Before You Say a Word on my website, markbrownspeaks.com. But if your intro sets you up, certainly in the corporate world, they want you there for a particular reason.
Yes.
The talk I'm preparing now today to record tomorrow for delivery to a franchise is focused on hope for the future. So I always ask, is there a theme to your meeting? Is there a certain goal you want to accomplish? And how can I customize my message to meet that goal? So I know my theme for tomorrow is strength for today, hope for tomorrow. I know where it's going, and the intro will set it up. They want a message of hope. There's no surprise there. So let the audience know why you're there in that situation. You have to figure out, where am I going with this and why am I taking that direction? But you're right. If I'm going to say, tell a story that's off the wall, that seems to meander for a while, not going anywhere, they might just check out. Unless it's a really, really good story that quickly points them in my direction. I like opening with stories, but they have to make sense. I won't open with a corny joke because I want the audience to relax and lighten up. I'm not serving them that way. I'm serving myself. So, it has to be a reason for it.
I like it. I think telling people where it's going to go, it's more effective in a non-storytelling context and in more of a business context. Because a lot of these people, unless you're a keynote speaker and they're very excited to see you, for workers, people in the 9-to-5 world, a lot of people that come to your meetings, they don't even want to be in that meeting. They were just forced to be in that meeting.
Yeah, the boss says,
so they're like,
show up. Yeah.
When is this going to end? When is this going to end? Oh my God, he's going on forever. So if you tell them we're going to talk about dogs, cats, and zebras, they're like, okay, at least I know, after zebras, we're done. Yeah. And it helps people pay attention, because if they don't know when is this going to end, they're going to check out before. True.
And one technique that Darren LaCroix and I use a lot is we'll say the next 35 minutes, you're going to walk away with 3 keys.
Oh, I love that.
To elevate your performance from good to great to unforgettable. Ready? Let's go. Oh, now you know what you're going to get. You know it's going to be 35 minutes, and that way you're not doing one of these. Oh, gosh. So that certainly we also do a lot with our workshops and our programs, where we tell people, you got 59 minutes. In the next 59 minutes, you're going to walk away with 3 keys to being unforgettable. So they know what's coming and they're ready for it, and we want to serve them. So I'm really glad you asked that question, and you got the right idea. Let us know where it's going. Let us know why we're here so we can lean in and learn from you. Wow.
And they know you're respectful of their time, because you say in the next 59 minutes, they're like, okay, we're going to do it. And talking about time, we're going to do the rapid fire questions, which is a very short section, and then close with the champagne question. Okay.
All right.
First question. What is your most used emoji?
My most used emoji? Namaste.
Namaste.
I close every email with the word blessings and the namaste.
I love it. What is one thing you can't live without?
My wife, Andrea.
I love it. All-time favorite movie?
Right now, Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, beautiful. If you can invite 3 people, living or dead, to your home for dinner, who would they be?
Jesus Christ is one. Excuse me. Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa.
Unbelievable. You have your own late night talk show. Who do you invite as your first guest?
My late night talk show, my first guest who I would invite, if I could get to meet him, Will Smith.
Oof, incredible. If you could study with any expert in the world, who would you work with and what would you study?
With any expert in the world, I would love to study with, but he's no longer living, but he's dead, Billy Graham, the study of the Bible.
Beautiful. What is one bad recommendation that you often hear in public speaking?
Tell a story, make a point. 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 It is just a list of stories. They're not conjoined. They're not structured in a way. They all lead to one destination.
I love it. Who is the first person that comes to mind when you hear the word successful?
Wow. Right now, Richard Branson.
I love that. I love that answer. If you had 6 months left to live, how would you spend them?
If I had 6 months left to live, and I've had to wrap in my mind before, honestly, Stephan, I'm not sure I would change too much. I'd keep doing what I'm doing, but do it as best as I could while I could live. I wouldn't change anything.
That's so refreshing to hear. I love it. I love it. I often hear answers where like, I would change everything. And I'm like, well, do it now. And this is life, you know? I love your answer.
Appreciate that.
What would the title of your autobiography be?
Blessed Beyond Measure.
Now I want you to write it.
You got me. You got me. Good.
And the last question is, who is your favorite public speaker?
That's a good question.
I'll give you two if you want.
My favorite public speaker. In the world of public speaking, I've met many famous speakers, but there's one individual who has been significant in helping me grow. His name is Willie Jolly. He's from Washington, D.C. He's a certified speaking professional. He's a Hall of Fame speaker. He was listed by Toastmasters, one of the top 5 speakers in the world several years ago. And he is my friend, my brother, and my mentor. Right now, I recommend Willie Jolly.
Beautiful. Thank you. The champagne question, my friend. We've come to the end of this episode. Every guest gets this question.
I didn't bring a flute, the champagne flute. You didn't tell me, man.
If we were to meet a year from now, 2022, with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating in Mark Brown's life?
In 2022, we are celebrating first my 40th wedding anniversary to my wife, Andrea. She is my love. She's my heart. She's my life. And I cannot possibly imagine my life without her.
Oh my God, that is beautiful to hear. My friend, it sounds like you've lived the dream. You continue to live the dream. And every time I talk to you, there's so much gratitude behind your message. I always learn from you. This was fantastic. I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
My brother, the honor was mine and Stephan's friends, family, and fans. This guy is hilarious. This guy is awesome. And I count myself honored and blessed to have spent an hour and a half with this amazing guy. Thank you so much, Stephan. Blessings to you, man.
Thank you. Go watch Mark Brown's speeches on YouTube, especially the 1995 World Championship of Public Speaking winning speech. And I like to challenge you.
Yeah.
I do think that you are just born with the gift of comedy because you made everyone laugh.
Yeah,
you got the timing perfectly. Well, even better than so many comedians. You got it down. And I'm honored to have shared the stage with you for the 3rd time now, including this podcast.
Well,
we'll continue to talk.
Yeah. And if your fans want to get hold of me, like I said, it's markbrownspeaks.com is my website. Mark L. Brown is my YouTube channel. I coach speakers. I give keynote speeches, and I'm learning how to be funnier from people like Stephan Dyer. Thanks, my friend.
We'll include that in the show notes, everything about you. If they want to work with you, speaker, consultant, world champion, Mark Brown and Stephan Dyer on the Stephan Dyer podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer podcast. Arrivederci, my people.